All right. So, hey, Eric, how you doing tonight?
Eric, yeah. Oh, the improved version of Eric, if you want.
You're not Eric. You're Cedric. Hi, Cedric.
Hello, John.
You were just saying you can't have Cedric without Eric. You're right. That's awesome.
Yeah, uh, it's more of a C and a D, but yeah, we'll see if I can match Eric and do as well as he does. But
Oh, you'll do great. You'll do great. So, if you don't mind, who are you, Cedric?
a big fan of the show. We got in trouble listening to the show in the past.
back before we learned not to say, "Hey, dingus."
Exactly. I'm a McAfee employee as well, most frequently working on different attack technology or threat technology, reversing them, and in some cases even inventing them. I don't know if I have an official title. You would have to ask my boss, but something like cybersecurity ninja.
Ninja.
Exactly. And I've been with McAfee for what, 13 going on 14 years now.
A little bit longer than me because I'm 12 going on 13.
But still much less than Eric.
That's true. That's true. Eric's the old man. Welcome to the show, and thanks for filling in for Eric. Appreciate that.
Like, where is he? Like, he could take the time.
Well, today or this week is spring break in Oregon. And so, to be honest, the guy went to Chicago with his family to see Hamilton, which is awesome. And I'm really jealous.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, he actually texted me earlier with a picture of the stage, as they're in the audience, and I texted him a picture. I was at a bee meeting up in North Plains, Oregon, and so yeah, it was not exactly the same.
Oh, at least you will get the honey.
That's true. That's true. Hopefully, if those bees need to get to work. All right, so let's get into this a little bit here. I had one piece of follow-up from last week. We talked about the Norsk aluminum company that was currently, like the day that we recorded last week, had been under attack for ransomware. And we didn't really know what the fallout was going to be for that yet, or really how big it was going to be. There was another post literally just today that said that it seems like it's a pretty bad situation. They're saying that they've lost approximately $40 million in the week the week that followed, so this past week, and that it will take weeks still to recover. And two other interesting facts about this, I guess. The first of which is they are not going to pay to unlock the files, so they're restoring from backups.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows if they would have gotten it back in the first place? And then the second thing is that they have a, quote, solid cyber risk insurance policy, which I don't know how common that is, to be honest.
Yeah,
Do you?
I don't know. And the big question is how much are they going to get back from it? And so
Right.
I'm curious to
Right.
see what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So this says it said that, let's see, the exact quote was, Hydro has a solid cyber risk insurance policy with recognized insurers with global insurer AIG as lead. But the insurance has a ceiling, which he declined to be more specific about. So, yeah. I assume that has a percentage recovery and obviously a cap as well. So it'll be interesting to follow up again in some period of time. I bet it's not in the next week or two. I bet we find out in a month or two.
Oh, we will have the full story in a year from now when you have some court documents with the exact numbers and them suing the insurance.
You're probably not wrong. Probably not wrong. Well, cyber insurance is gonna be interesting. I gotta say, I don't know. I guess the distributed safety net is important when you have, potential for catastrophic loss of a few things. That's what insurance is for. But I worry that it can be used to not sort of do basic hygiene. But maybe that's written into the policies. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, actually, if they were to put it in policy, that would be the right thing to do. Proper hygiene, proper security hygiene, proper backups, and in absence of that, no coverage. And I think it would really push people to obey by the rule and not necessarily find the insurance to be the safety net when they could have done much better by some good security hygiene in the first place.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the sort of thing that would cover for the loss of business, but not for the recovery kind of thing. Which actually there's an equivalent perhaps in my house at one point in time. I had a leak from a bathroom, and to which I went in to the insurance and was like, "Oh, cool, I have insurance, right?" And he's like, "Oh, sure, we'll pay for any of the damage that the leak caused, but nothing to fix the leak in the first place." So I'm like, "Well, the damage was nothing. It's fixing the problem that's going to be so expensive." They're like, "Oh yeah, well we don't cover that."
Yeah. And if you extend the same to more of a business, let's say a rental, they will not cover, or it's not by default. You can add it to your policy, but if you didn't, you don't have it. But if you lose the ability to rent the place because now the toilet is not functional, and you have to provide at least one toilet to your tenants, then you have loss of rent. And same, it's not covered by default. So
yeah, all right.
You have to read the small prints.
Yes, fine print. It's all about the fine print. So before we get into topics, I have one little minor thing which I thought was interesting this week, and I haven't seen this in the mainstream press yet. There might be something, but Apple announced their News Plus service. I don't know if you caught that. I know you're not as much of an Apple quote unquote fanboy as I am. I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, but
yeah. No, I'm definitely more of a Google, Android, and Pixel guy.
No, that's good. That's good. It takes all types, Plus, you can hack your phone a lot more than I can. But anyway, so they announced their News Plus service, which is something they're going to be, essentially a subscription for the Apple News app, and they signed up a whole bunch of magazine publishers and newspaper publishers. But the pages of the magazines that the app is pulling down are not protected in any way, shape, or form. So you can...
So no paywall? You can...
No, there's no authentication, at least. So you can very easily just crawl the URLs, download the high resolution images, and stitch them back together into PDF, and there you go. And Apple doesn't have DRM on their MP3s, but you also have to authenticate before you can download them and stuff like that. So it seems really weird that they would have released their client, which is coming in the 10.2 iOS update, without doing anything to authenticate between the services and the app.
That's interesting. they do have a bug bounty, Maybe you could get more honey or more bees.
Well, I certainly didn't discover this, but this is Steve Troughton Smith was tweeting about this. I'll throw the link in here to the Twitter thread, and who knows? I don't know what'll come about that next week, but we'll see. I don't know if you listened to that episode, but I totally stepped in it the other week. I thought that Apple had a bug bounty for Macs as well, and I didn't realize it was only for iOS.
No, that is actually a big topic in the industry, where researchers have been asking and pushing Apple to come up with a bounty for Mac, and in some cases even retaining some 0 days against Mac OS. And for now, I'm not aware of any change, which is it's not helping the security of Mac devices. So there are some researchers out there that have been doing a fantastic work finding some remote code execution on Mac OS, and they are not receiving any reward for it, or at least not at the level of what you would get for iOS. So definitely something they should fix.
iOS may be an outlier, don't they? They'll pay up to $250,000 for some bugs, won't they?
Even more than that. Oh, they will. Others will pay even more than that.
Well, yeah. That's I think even Apple. Well, Apple has plenty of money in the bank. Of course, we can all spend Tim Apple's money better than he can. Mm-hmm. I'm sure, but I think it's probably a bit different to have. What do they have? A billion active iOS devices versus I don't know how many active Mac OS devices they have, but I'm sure it's a tenth that.
Oh, it's surely smaller, but that to use another virus analogy, but in real life, the herd protection threshold is at 94-95% of people being protected against the threat. Same when it comes to endpoint. If you leave 10% of your endpoint, even if it's only 10%, but you leave them behind and they are vulnerable, you are not helping the herd.
Nice. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize there was like a specific percentage in there.
Oh,
that's cool.
We're in Oregon, so get to learn about the NISL and the herd protection and layer and how. Hey, it's an interesting topic.
That's cool. Okay, my first main topic was a article I saw this week about. Actually, Eric posted this in Slack. What was this? This was ASUS software updates were co-opted last year to install backdoors on a lot of systems. So the easy to read link on this was from Motherboard, but this was kind of interesting because it looks like not only were the updates hijacked, but the attackers were able to sign the updates, the malicious updates, with a legitimate ASUS certificate.
Well, they were able to sign it and to post it in the original location. So it's like full compromise of the update server and then ability to sign. It's definitely interesting. And yeah, I think they were quoting 500,000 to potentially 1 million endpoint infected by the update, but only a very, very small minority of endpoint where the threat has been active, and so some filtering using the MAC address of the device. So the actor is definitely hunting for specific devices out there. And I think there is a paper coming out soon from one of the AV vendors that actually came across it first.
Right. Interesting that the ASUS update servers aren't surgically targeted enough to be able to say when to deliver the malicious update, but in the malware itself or the malicious update itself, there were MAC address filtering to say only turn on the additional code if the MAC address of the device matched a set of hard-coded MAC addresses in the sample.
Yep. Would be interesting to, we could publish that list of MAC address or provide a web service where people can just log in, put their MAC and see if they were one of the target. Would be an interesting thing to understand who were the 600. Oh, for now we know of 600 based on the few samples that have been found and the MAC address that were in these samples. There may be more, but at least we could hunt for them and figure out where they are and who was the actual target.
Yeah. And how were the MAC addresses to be targeted chosen? Because it seems like in order to know that, you'd have to have known from a different source what the MAC addresses were that you were wanting to look for.
Yep. If you were to make a guess, I would say it could be the wireless device MAC address, and they were perhaps in an hotel or in a open Wi-Fi at some point in time, or an airport, so it was easy to identify their MAC, and from there, try to hunt them down and see where they have been since.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure we'll learn much more when the first paper is published, and then we'll all spend a little bit of time reverse engineering the threat and understand what it was really after.
So this was called, from the Kaspersky article at least, it was called Shadowhammer.
Mm-hmm.
And what the other thing in here said 200 samples, meaning that they were able to identify 200 distinct updates that had been sent to different computers. I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I mean, we definitely had to look at our own telemetry, and we'll need to do a little bit more investigation to come up with numbers of our own. So I'm not sure about 200 or 200 unique sample or 200 location for these samples. We'll have to figure that out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was a little confusing to me. But I guess the other open question for me is, how in the world did they compromise both the signing certificate? I mean, having the update site hijacked, that's happened a lot. But the combination of the two.
Yeah. And the side effect of it too, which is, I mean, what do you do with that cert? And as of today, definitely we all revoked the trust that we had with that cert. But we need the trust to be revoked by itself, and that has the implication on all the software out there, the clean software that is signed by that cert, and now it has to be handled. And now we all have to go back and look at every single sample that was signed with that cert that would have been trusted to some extent, and verify that it's not one of these compromised samples, and see what's the extent of the damage. But it definitely opened a big can of worm, which is revoking certificates that are used to sign binaries and that are shipped on millions of computers. It's not an easy task, and most frequently vendors take a very long time, if they even manage to do it. But it takes a long time for them to finally revoke the cert that could be used still today,
right,
and still be trusted by, like, let's say, your operating system. Most of your security solution will not trust it anymore and may actually consider it as a big red flag. But your OS, that's a different story.
Well, Microsoft and Apple both carry their own CRLs, don't they?
They do, but they don't aggressively remove the trust. Because if, let's say, let's take a laptop from that manufacturer, and let's say there's a driver that is signed.
All the other things that are signed.
Exactly. And so now you revoke the trust, and the driver is still the old driver. Let's say you're on Windows 7 and you don't have the ability to auto-update some of the drivers, and you find yourself in a position where the device is now offline. So not something you want to do, but something you may have to do if the vendor doesn't act quickly.
Yeah. All right. Ugly.
Yep.
Ugly. Some people at ASUS are having a very bad week. I guess this says it was reported on January 31st, 2019, which it's a little less than 90 days coming out publicly, so I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not a vulnerability per se, so will it obey by the 90-day disclosure? It's that's a good topic, actually. Wonder if it's we will obey by the same rules that we now obey by in the on the product security side, where when a vulnerability is found, most likely in 90 days it's going to be disclosed. In that case, it's the keys of the castle, and the cert. I would say that it should be even faster than 90 days. But
yeah,
that's
you wouldn't
only
want to
my
let
point of
it
view.
continue to deploy for
Exactly
another quarter of a year. Huh. All right. Well, interesting topic, that one. My second topic is actually a article about Medtronic heart implant and the fact that it can be hacked from 20 feet away. So, these are devices that get inserted into the heart and monitor heartbeat and basically medical biotelemetry, and in some cases can actually cause act as a defibrillator, right, to periodically shock the heart to kind of keep it beating regularly. And this might be something that you wouldn't want to have arbitrarily controlled by somebody.
Definitely not. But what I love about the topic is that it's making the news. It's a good thing, because we have seen a lot of let's say medical devices not necessarily obeying by the best security hygiene or defining their own protocols and failing to do so. But where it's very cyclical in some aspect is something like 8 years ago, I think it was back in 2011, our own Barnaby Jack, rest in peace. But he, I think it was, late 2011, he published a vulnerability on an insulin pump from the same vendor. And funny enough, when they speak about the current blog is putting a point on the distance where you can actually get access to the device, and so 30 feet away. But back then, if I remember correctly, the antenna used for the insulin pump was a little bit more powerful, and you could actually locate and hack the insulin pump about 300 feet away. So even more powerful.
Probably helps that the insulin pump is on the outside of the body.
Yep. But the result would have been the same, the ability to definitely impact the health and potentially terminate the patient by taking over the device. So it's painful to see that it's 8 years after and we're still finding publication and disclosure on devices that should be life-saving and not life-hacking.
Well, and it's not even moving up the scale of complexity in terms of how hard it is to hack. So I mean, this says that the proprietary Connexus protocol lacks any form of authentication.
Yep. Sounds typical.
So it's not that's not if I listen very closely and I decrypt this packet, I have a way to do a buffer overflow and I can with a really complicated set of steps get some form of control of the device.
The funny thing here is, like, there are a lot of blogs and research currently on like IoT devices and what it takes to hack them and dump the firmware and find remote code execution and things of that sort. And painfully, some of these medical devices are much less secure than, for example, your smart irrigation system in your backyard.
Right.
So
right.
It's really something to consider and get that field to start learning and obey by the rules of security and not security by obscurity.
Yeah, I mean obscurity doesn't last very long.
Nope, especially not nowadays.
Exactly. So this says that an attacker within radio range about 20 feet from the patient's cardiac device. So you have to be in proximity to the person at least, I guess.
Yeah.
Can inject, replay, modify, and intercept the data.
Yep. And I don't know if you remember, but even last summer, Doug Mackey from McAfee ATR published something fairly similar, but it was on the patient monitoring system. So in this case, you had to be on the same network, so it wasn't wireless, but it was giving the ability to completely spoof all the values and data coming from the patient to the monitoring system, so that, you know, if you're in a James Bond movie and you want to get rid of someone and not alert the medical staff, now you have a way to do it.
Right. Or as I recall on that, provide data such that the attending physician or nurse might, you know, follow protocol to give a particular injection or something like that.
Exactly. And force them to do the dirty job for you.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, this is frustrating in many ways. It's an example, though, that, you know, the level of security maturity is still in just the beginning phases of life on this planet. You know, we're immersed in this often. But I think about this as you interact with other people from other walks of life and in other job categories, that they're not even thinking about how something can be abused. Yeah. Whereas I know very well how you think, my friend.
Yeah, it's evolving. I mean, I know it's hard with some industries where they have difficulties to see what someone would do with the technology they made available. But some other industries, like, let's say, utilities, SCADA, or like automotive industry, are definitely now moving in the right direction. It's not there yet, but it's much better than what it would have been, let's say, 5 years ago. Medical, it's still one of these fields where devices are very expensive. They stay in place for decades, and so it's hard to move the needle.
Yeah. Well, I guess to close this topic out, you know, the company, what else are they going to say? But the FDA recommends that you continue to use the devices as prescribed, and, you know, this is it's a real risk, but it's a relatively theoretical risk compared to, you know, somebody that needs to have a heart implant. It's probably better to get the heart implant and take your chances with
yeah, definitely
somebody wanting. So the exact quote was, "The benefits of remote monitoring outweigh the practical risk that these vulnerabilities will be exploited. Those benefits include earlier detection of arrhythmias, fewer hospital visits, and improved survival rates." I'd be kind of keen on the whole improved survival rate. That's probably the thing that puts it over the top, you know.
Yep. But, you know, I just need one attack, and we'll see how it will change. But so far, lucky us, we haven't seen anything on that scale targeting medical devices just for the news attention.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay, so hey, at the end of the show, we typically do something fun. Did you bring something fun? Your homework?
What did I bring? First, I needed to explain one of my comments at the beginning of the call.
Okay.
Where I mentioned that as a fan listening to the show, I got in trouble because back then you would use some keywords that would wake up my home automation, and my wife was actually cooking when you and Eric managed to shut down every single light on the upstairs floor, and definitely she thought it was my fault.
Well, it was your fault.
I was listening and like. But it may have been my fault, but for one, it wasn't my intent.
Let me publicly say I'm sorry.
And so, continuing on the topic of fun and home automation and smart devices, came to find out that one of my smart vacuum cleaner is actually smarter than me, and The damn thing actually wasn't down with vacuuming last night. Went back to his base, started charging. It takes like a good 2 or 3 hours for it to finally, get a full battery. And because he has a full understanding of the map of the floor and which section were down and which sections that were still left to do, decided to start again at 2:30 in the morning. And lucky enough, that one is smart enough with his laser to not bump in the wall, which doesn't make that much noise, but it's definitely disturbing when you wake up in the middle of the night with the noise of items moving, because it's still bumping in a few things here and there. So now, now I have to make sure that there's actually a blackout configuration so that at night the thing is not going to wake up and decide to finish the job.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, do I get to ask, is that like a Roomba?
No, Roomba, so old school.
Come on.
I went with the Nito, and Nito has a full family, but recently they actually did something pretty cool. Only the D7, that was the higher level Nito, had the ability to define what they call no-go line, which is basically a software way using your floor plan to define areas where you don't want the vacuum to go. So Roomba.
So you don't have to put those little
no wall
IR lights up.
Exactly, no infrared walls, and you can really define clearly where you want the device to go. And that was used to be restricted to the higher level Nito. So I think it's the D7, and now they open it up to, I think, almost every single model from like the D4, D5, D6. And that works fantastically. The only thing that my D7 does that the D4 can't do is definition of rooms, which is pretty cool because you can just ask your D7 to go clean the kitchen, and it will go do the kitchen and come back.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, but it's scary too because the maps that these devices are generating are very accurate. Like it's to an attacker, it would provide you all the information you need about the different entry points, the exact plan of the house, and some additional details of where the vacuum can go or cannot go.
Interesting.
They have one for Windows now.
I did not know they have one for Windows.
They have one that actually goes on the outside of the building. It's not for, it's not for us in general because we don't have enough windows for that. But if you were to own a Mac mansion that has massive window walls, the thing can go vertically, and basically it's kind of like it has one anchor point, and then it just suction and clean the windows.
Oh, that is funny. No, I did not know. I've seen them for swimming pools or something similar for swimming pools. Not that we have swimming pools in Oregon. It's
Oh, we do have them. They are under that cover, and then we only get to see them about 6 weeks in the year.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. All right. So my something fun before we wrap here is not at all tech related. So it is a National Geographic article on a fossil discovery in China. I'll put the link into the show notes here. But this is totally cool. This is a number of pictures out here on the National Geographic link. But the unique thing about this find is that it preserved a lot of the soft tissue. The soft tissue itself isn't preserved, but the soft tissue is visible in the fossils. So, it's very, very, very cool article. And, there's some nice pictures, the slideshow here, just tons of detail. And so this is, let's see.
And it's not
I'm
fake
not
news.
sure how to pronounce it. It's not, to the best of my knowledge, fake news. I will say that a non-zero part of me looks at a lot of the stuff that's come out of China in the last couple of years and said, man, I sure hope that a lot of that stuff is for real. But there've been a number of really very cool discoveries in China. So this is Qingjiang. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Qingjiang is the actual location. You know, they're comparing it to the Burgess Shale, which is in Canada, as a massive, massive treasure of fossils. So I thought this was pretty cool, and they said that they've done 4 seasons of extractions there, and currently they're working on trying to have the site preserved for future work. So anyway, check it out. Hard to describe in audio, so you gotta go read the article.
I will definitely do, and let you know if it's fake news.
Oh yeah, that's what follow-up's for. All right, man. Hey, thanks for filling in, being the guest. Have a good night. Talk to you later.
Talk to you.